And this car from the ground up was built in 8 weeks. So welcome back to another video. So this one was, a picture came up online and it went wild. If you are a petrol head and you follow all these crazy builds, you will have seen this car. It has had thousands and thousands of views. So we are over at Cosworth and we are looking at the 106 4x4 WRC spec Cosworth powered, and all I can say is I've had a quick glance and it is stunning. This one is super special. So let's get in and let's take a look. So here it is. Look at this thing. If this hasn't got presence, this reminds me of an old Group B car, like a modern twist on. And look at the plate, P106 WRC, because this is full WRC spec underneath. It look at that. It looks like a toy. It is amazing. Cosworth powered, 4-wheel drive, and I'm told everything underneath is WRC spec because he had a friend who was breaking WRC Escorts and he bought all the parts off him. So the story goes with this car. He is a big Escort Cosworth fan, Cosworth owner, loves them to bits. He was looking to purchase a car and his friend had sent him a picture of the red DJM built Cosworth powered 106. So that got him thinking. He told his pals, this is what I'm thinking of building. And one of his pals had a Clio V6 in the corner of his workshop. The guy went, if you can get that done in 8 weeks, because at the 8-week period they were going on a trip to Mull Rally. And he said, if you get that car done in 8 weeks, I'll give you the Clio V6. The bet was made, and this car from the ground up was built in 8 weeks. I can't get over it. It got to Mull, it got running, and he did the moment of being able to wind his friend up and say, well, you owe me your Clio V6, which obviously, because it's his pal, he never did. Then what happened was a bit of a personal issue. Some of the parts got sold, the car got put into storage on a farm, and it's been sat there for about 5 years. It's only just been pulled out, and now it is being rebuilt with some added little extras to put a Cosworth engine in a 106. My hat goes off to him. My hat goes off to him. So let's dive in and let's have a look at what makes this so special. When I do say about doing a floor pan swap, this is the alternative way of doing it. This is quite a quicker, I won't say simpler, but it's definitely a quicker way of doing it than doing a full floor pan. They've had to make the exhaust tunnel and the transmission tunnel, but these are original 106 floor pans. This is original 106. They've had to make this area, obviously for the tie arm, to tie the WRC spec bottom arms in. So obviously they've reinforced, made this area. Obviously, as you can see, it goes all the way back with the diff mount. That's a custom made engine mount for the rear of the gearbox. And then obviously as we move further back, you can see the WRC spec cradle. A lot of this boot floor area is original 106. Even though it hasn't got, obviously, the diff hangers, what they've done is they've made like 50-50 box section and run it all the way along. That's factory, but they've had to reproduce it on this side for strength. But they've basically stitched in 50-50 box all the way along and all the way along in various areas, and then mounted the cradle up. And then as we look inside, each mounting point of the cradle is mounted to the roll cage, because you can also see the bracing bars for the mounting points for the rear tie arms, which have been double skinned, all braced in. To get under here and see the work's really, really nicely done. Sometimes the simplest way is the best way, and this is definitely a true factor for this. This here, up to this section, is original 106. So what they've had to do is, again, 50-50 box to the front, with additional some additional brackets for anti-roll bars, but to mount the engine, just some 50/50 box. And it's mad to think that the engine bay on a 106 is actually bigger than an Escort Cosworth. I think you'll agree, this thing fits in there absolutely perfectly. And what I also like is seam sealer. And that was the first thing I picked up on here, because to get seam seal to look pretty is an absolute nightmare. And to use the proper professional gun, it is definitely worth the while in investing into it. Full adjustable tie arms, bladed anti-roll bars. Anyone who doesn't know what a bladed anti-roll bar is, this is the blade area. It's thin. So what you do to adjust hardness, so that's on its full hard setting, because the blade is vertical, you rotate the blade to adjust anti-roll bar settings so it's got some flex. So if you run that flat, it's got flex, run it vertical, it's hard. That's how blade anti-roll bars work. It's going to handle fantastically with the power as well. This is going to be an awesome build when done. This is how small the world is. No way, look at that. That was when the V6, well, the V6 was a 2 litre then.
That's, hang on, that's back end, look.
Used to chuck red tops in them for fun.
Oh dear, hell, no way. Small world.
Yeah.
Steve's Nova.
Yeah.
Steve's Nova. What the hell, yeah. So this is obviously where the magic is. Obviously, this is what all the energy's been involved in doing, is to get the Cosworth engine into the engine bay. Fits pretty damn well in there, to be fair. So if you look a bit closer, the initial bulkhead adaptations is this small area here, which is allowing the engine to sit back. And as with kind of these projects is, you just keep cutting until it clears, and then you start paneling it in. The engine bay is actually wider than an Escort Cosworth, which you never ever think. And when you look at the prop shaft, I think he said he's only had something like 39, 40 mil taken out the prop shaft, which is mind-blowing to think that's all a Cosworth is longer compared to this. All of its factory areas, nothing's been really modified on that section. The main area is these two parts here and here, which are to bring it in to make the engine bay slightly narrower to allow it to take up the Cosworth cradle. So if you look down this area, you can see the full bar which comes along here, which is where it's been modified to allow the cradle to sit in. This has been kind of cut out slightly and plated for the transmission tunnel, as has this area. They actually said it was harder to get the wipers to work than it was to mount the engine in the bay. Again, what they did with this suspension top, so all this area is all original 106. They plated the top suspension truss so it was a fixed hole, and then they drilled it out for the WRC spec suspension tops. Because these are so much adjustment, it means even if they're slightly out at any point, they can rotate them to get the suspension settings where it needs to be. And that's what I kind of say to people who dive into these massive projects. Just build enough adjustment into the car, then no matter what you do, you can always get it to run true, run straight. That's why it's very good to put everything onto rose joints, to slotted holes, because you need that adjustment. Unless you are building these things on a perfect jig, you're never going to find out until it's too late. So looking on the inside, they've just started to carpet it. Obviously this is an unfinished project. We're going to come back and we're going to see it as a complete car in the future, but just to dive into some of the key factors that are in here. Full FIA cage with some additional bars, and when I say additional bars, this is for, if you can see underneath, all for the rear diff mounts, so it's all tied in. So technically this is kind of a space frame car with the 106 around it. But as you can see, all original 106 floors with just an additional turret tunnel put in to allow the prop shaft to go through. And obviously there's been like an additional plate made for here for a diff cover. The back boot is actually fixed, and we'll show you why it's fixed shortly. So this is where they've put the WRC Escort Cosworth suspension turrets in. So they've bought this section, which is obviously the rounded section for the WRCs, which you weld in for the uprated plates on the top, and then that's kind of sorted out the area for the suspension pickups. Shell's been fully stitch weld, as it would be, because obviously it's going to be quite a performance vehicle. Dashboard, again 106, but what is interesting, they shortened it either side, even shortening the glove box. Nice touch. Not many people would do that, they'd probably just cut it out, but still works, still all there. Oh, there we go. Still works. It's like a PDM key panel. It's on a Life Racing ECU. Obviously digital dash, and obviously all the additional buttons and fixtures and fittings on the steering wheel itself. Still on a H-pattern gearbox, but that obviously the reason why he's kept that is because the gearbox itself will run 700 horsepower-ish and it can be converted into sequential in the future. Even down to like little things like this, which is a Cosworth G meter. So there's been no expense spared with this full build. It is absolutely amazing. Even to the grab handles, which are original Quicksilver grab handles, which are from the rear. So as you can see, it's on a 205 T16 rear spoiler. They've adapted it to fit, but what is super cool is they've gone to the hassle and the work to notch this area out so they can still open the rear windows. If that's not attention to detail, I don't know what is. This is why the boot's fully fixed, so the boot does not open no more, but they've put the rear window on pop locks all over, so the rear window can pop out, so you can still get to the spare wheel, which is obviously going to mount on the roll cage area. If you look on the roof here, that's the GPS speed sensor, which is obviously to assist a life racing ECU with GPS location, speed, track times, 0 to 60s, everything you need to know. It's a 106 body, which has been added with the dimmer wide arch kit. This is based around the super wide track Escort WRC setup. So they had to kind of widen it slightly to get that extra little bit to fit. And I cannot wait to see it fully built up, driving and running. This is like, takes me back to the Group B era where everything's brash, in your face, wide arch, big power, big flames, big everything. And this is like the version which should have been built if the rally kind of carried on into different years, into different models. If that doesn't get you excited of Cosworth 500-600 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, 106, short wheelbase, I don't know what does. It basically sums up everything my channel is about. So I think you'll agree. You can see why this thing has broke the internet and has been shared so many times, because it is so different and so out there. Speechless. The thing is amazing. And again, I think it also goes back to that everyone wants to own these cars. Everyone loves these cars, but no one's willing to jump in and build these cars. With a group of mates and a bit of hard work and determination to win a bet, has built probably one of the best cars I've seen in a long time. I'm looking forward to the future of being able to go and see it on the dyno, to see it out on the road. So I hope you like it. I'm glad I rushed over to see it. We'll sign this one off. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.